Well, howdy. Welcome to another secret spot in Death Valley. That's right, secret spot in Death Valley called Anvil Spring. Take a look at it. Pretty wet and wild, huh? And what's famous about Anvil Spring, you may ask? Well, it's another one of those prospecting places that I told you about before, like over at Stella's cabin and Asa Russell. But the other thing that's pretty neat about Anvil Spring is that it's home to Geologist Cabin, which has a great view out overlooking Striped Butte. Remember Striped Butte? And the Butte Valley. Certainly is pretty and quiet. But anyway, I'll bet you want to know a little bit more about Geologist Cabin right up here. So let's go take a look at it. And while we're walking over there, interesting thing about how Anvil Spring got its name. Back in the 1860s, there was a prospecting party that came through here. And they came across the springs here. And there was an old anvil as well as an old iron wheel along with some other iron things. And so presumably those were left by miners from earlier in the 1850s, possibly as late back as 1849. But anyway, Geologist Cabin here has nothing to do with the name Anvil Springs at all. Geologist Cabin, as I mentioned, has to do with Asa Russell and his cabin out that way by Mango Pass. But of the cabins that are out here, Geologist Cabin is definitely the one that's kept up the most and has, I think, the most the greater view, of course. But let's take a look on the inside, huh? Oh, before we do, look at this. Welcome in the spirit of the Old West. Please leave it better than you found it. All right, let's go inside. Ooh, huh? Little one-room cabin. Definitely has a lot of character when you first look at it, doesn't it? But let's look here. Look at the view. So out the window, looking at Butte Valley there to the east, and Striped Butte to the northeast. Now a little bit about the history of the cabin before we go through it is it was built probably around 1930 because there's actually a picture in a book somewhere, a picture of this exact same spot from 1929 that does not show the cabin whatsoever. And then the stories that have been circulating through the time is that Asa Russell built this place in 1930. So that picture of 1929 pretty much confirms that nothing else was here. But Asa Russell, when he was here, like we mentioned before, he had not only this one, but he had also the other one over by Mango Pass. And down there at the spring, unlike what it is today, kind of in its mostly in its natural state, he actually built up a cistern, put a wood trap door over it to keep the burrows out, and it provided quite a bit of water. In fact, as you can see right now, this is late in the season where there's been no rain. There's still quite a bit of water flowing out of it. So anyway, so let's take a look around the cabin here. Let's start over here and see what people have left for us, huh? So this looks like the old hardware section. You got some clamps and stuff for cars. You got a little bit of motor oil. Looks like some transmission fluid, maybe. Oh, brake fluid. Then you got a little bit of you got some window glass cleaner here. It's really interesting to see how people they'll leave this stuff, and you know, I don't know if, I guess it gets used from time to time, but the trick is just to, as we saw with the little plaque there, is leave the place a little bit better than when you found it, right? Saw and some brooms right there. Over here we've got some canned goodies. If you like diet stuff, there's some there. A bunch of water, which is good for in the summer, right? Oh yeah, we got the generic version of Spam. It feels kind of light. I think this is expired. Oh no, expires in 2026. But it looks like the seal's been broken. Here's some Spam right here. I think I better take this and throw it away. It's bad. Uh-oh, beer and bourbon. Huh. And then down here, we've got the food that's in soft containers so that when the mice get here, they aren't able to get to it. Crackers, boiling bag rice, some macaroni and cheese, huh? Mountain House freeze-dried. That looks like that seal's been punctured as well. Little gas can, nothing in it. Fire extinguisher, some more water. A little tarp of some kind here. Emergency blanket, just like we saw over there in the previous cabin. Lighter fluid. Why would you want lighter fluid? Well, because you got a fireplace over there, and even there you got a little hibachi grill, huh? Some more first aid stuff, a nice little painting somebody drew here, and I don't know what's in here. Oh, it's another American flag. Looks like a pop-up shelter right there. And then you got some pads and some cots. And speaking of cots, I got one out. I'm going to stay here tonight. Got my stuff on it. It's be nice and cozy. A little bit of grilling stuff here. And these cutouts are nice, aren't they? You know, you can put candles on here. Little alcohol lamp. Empty. Put some water in there. Now there's no water here in this cabin. Here's my stuff. But you do have a shelf where you can put a jug of water and then do your dishes. And then the drain flows out, as you can see right there. And then the rocks are stacked up against it to keep the mice out, because they'll climb up here. And also, too, you'll notice that you got to keep a rock on here so that the mice don't climb up through the hole. Paper towels. It's even been wired with speakers. And you can't see it, but there's a small solar panel on top that gives power to a small battery that's enclosed in here. And you can just turn this on here and flip the lights, and you got lights for the nighttime. Now the light doesn't last that long because it's a very small battery. And for somebody that wanted to, they could even bring a little iPod or something and a little stereo and hook it in and turn it on, and You got the speakers right there. This cabin really does have a very homey feeling, and you could tell just by even the things that people have written in the logbooks that they've had that special connection to the place, if you want to call it that. But the other stuff that people have left here, you can see up here in the rafters, somebody's left a nice inflatable, double inflatable pad for 2 people. And back on here in the mantle, you got some, looks like some wine and some whiskey. This one's empty. You can make your coffee there. Lantern, nothing in it. And I bet you this is a burrow bone. And it's really interesting to see the stuff that's on the shelves here in these cabins. See a lot of games here. There's some cards right up here. Somebody here, look at this, somebody from West Virginia left a West Virginia flag. They said they've been here, I think, this year, and they're going to come back in April of 2022. And they want people to sign their flag, so when they come back, they've got something to take a look at. Or if they don't make it back, they want somebody to mail it back to them. The books and all that, and magazines. These National Geographics are from 1985, I think, is the oldest one. And this was interesting too, is to look at. There are some. Where are they here? There are some sailing or yachting. Oh, here we are. Can you see that? Cruising World magazines. I haven't broken them out. Oh, Abacos, St. Martin, Lake Huron. I guess this would be kind of a refreshing thing to look at, especially if you're here in the summer. Yep. And I also noticed one here too is something if you get scared easily, you don't want to read this magazine. Outside, I don't know what issue this is, but the Unsolved Mysteries version, the Fear issue. So, yeah, it's a Geologist Cabin. It's really pretty nice. And again, it's got the great view. Oh, and the other nice thing too about this place is that you can sit here at the table. Let's do this. Sit here at the table and then look out over the valley, and then you can see if anyone's coming up. How about that? So if you're going to hide out here, you can see the posse coming for you, huh? Something else interesting to note about the history of this Anvil Canyon area, which is right over here, and Anvil Springs in the Butte Valley, is back in the 90s. You may or may not have heard about it, but there was a German family that came out here and poof, disappeared. And the story that you get is they came out in a rental car, and then it was hot and they overheated, and then they tried to find their way out and just wandered off somewhere and disappeared. And the interesting thing too is that here underneath the logbook, somebody actually printed out a story about the hunt for the Death Valley Germans. And it's a really interesting story. It's about 21 pages long for the first half of it. And the way that it was found out is that there was a helicopter flying over. They were doing a regular search of contraband or marijuana growing places out in the backcountry here. And this was in October, I think, of 1996. Anyway, as a helicopter was flying over this remote canyon where there was not a road, there was one way back decades before, but no longer. and they saw this vehicle out here in the middle of nowhere and said, "Oh, this is interesting." So they came out and saw that people had indeed been there, but there was no sign of them. So they started well, not a search and rescue, but most likely a recovery type of thing. The search went on for better part of a week, and then they just couldn't find any more clues, so they gave it up. But the story here is a really interesting one, and if you have a chance to, this is printed out in 2016, but if you go to a website called spacebattles.com, and I don't have service here, so I can't check it out, but here's the address there. Go to the forums at spacebattles.com and search for this story, The Hunt for the Death Valley Germans. Yeah, like I said, it's 21 pages, and it's only the first part of the story. And at the end of this particular forum message, there's actually a link that takes you to the rest of the story, and I think the rest of that story is located at otherhand.org. Otherhand.org. And I think the author of that story was, what was his name? I don't know. Oh, Tom Mahood. So check it out, The Hunt for the Death Valley Germans. And let me know what you read about it, if they actually found the remains of those Germans or not, or if they solved the mystery of how they got here out into the remote section of, I mean, this is a really remote section of Death Valley. It's, like I said, it's one of those secret places most people will never see. So if you read up on The Hunt for the Death Valley Germans on otherhand.org, or if it's not there anymore, search for Tom Mahood and see if you can find the story, and then let me know if they actually found him or not. So anyway, Geologist Cabin, pretty nice place. And if you ever do get a chance to get out here, you need a high-wheel vehicle, a high-clearance vehicle, not with street tires, but you could probably make it out here in a two-wheel drive. You wouldn't need four-wheel drive, because the road out here is pretty good. Well, I should back it up. Pretty good for a dirt road anyway. And it's about 25 miles up this dirt road off of West Side Road. And just like the other place, we're about 4,400 feet above sea level. So even though it might be 120 down in the valley, up here it might be 105 in the summer, and then during the winter it does get pretty cold. So, Geologist Cabin, a nice looking little place with a nice view, and I'm looking forward to staying here tonight, and maybe sometime you can too. And then after tonight, where are we going to go? How about let's look at some rocks that walk. What could that be? And then they waited. And they waited and they waited and they waited. And then finally, aha!